Just a quick update on the progress on Air Manager 3.0. We've been working on some stuff, and I've been working on some panels. Felt like the Cessna and the Baron panels are two that have been kind of neglected and often used a lot. So this is the new Cessna panel. Now Ralph did most of the instruments, and I've just kind of put it all together. You can see the background image behind the instruments, which are just bezels with screws and invisible in the back, so they can be moved around. This is also including some of the new features like the scroll wheel. I use that for the trim, and also use the scroll wheel for the flaps. If you can see, I can just pull it down by grabbing it. It'll work with touch control too, and that way you can move the flaps with your finger. Parking brake added, and the fuel controls, the tank controls are on the floor, so you don't normally look at those except when you make an effort to look at them. So I put a little icon here on the left side of the panel, and if you click that, it opens the fuel controls that can be used, including a fuel shutoff. And when you're done, just click them and they go away. Redid the autopilot to match the one that's on the X-Plane 11 version of the Cessna. They have some custom data refs there. Also redid the transponder. I think Ralph had done originally, but it didn't have any of the buttons working, so I made those working. So you hit the VFR button, 2316, for example. You can set the thing, or hit VFR, ident. All those buttons are working now. And this is just a basic Cessna trainer. Now here's a modernized Baron panel to upgrade. It still needs a little work, but gives you the idea. I'll show you one thing interesting. If you look carefully, you see right here, this is what happens to text when it's not formatted for OpenGL. You get this minute text that's white, and in a default format. Same thing here with the DME. You can see how small that print, if you can see it, it's really hard to see. But that's what happens. Here it's been corrected on these instruments, but it has to be reformatted for OpenGL, and that's what we're doing, and that's why it's taken a little while. You can see I added the switch panel in a more realistic looking way, a gear and flaps, and then a radio stack. And my thinking is I'd like to be able to operate the aircraft from starting the engines through taxi, takeoff, landing without having to refer to any mouse usage if you're using touch control, or to the virtual cockpit. So that's kind of my thinking about it, and that's kind of behind my designs. I know Jack Z has a beautiful Baron panel he's doing. It's really pretty, and he just elected to put only the instruments there. Now, using the pop-up like I did with the fuel panel, it is possible to do that, I think, if we wanted to. Let me show you one more iteration of this panel. So here's an iteration of the Baron that has the GPS included. Now, we had a little problem. It's very difficult, evidently, according to Corin, to try to get the transparency on a background of a window. That was our plan, to have a solid or images on the background, or to have the ability to have clear transparency. And that may still be doable, but right now we're going to have to pass on that on the next release. So my solution was to create basically two windows, kind of reverting back to the old way, except we have this panel as one layout, this rectangular panel, and then I made another rectangular panel here on this side to be this comm stack, and left an opening for the GPS. Now this is the actual GPS from X-Plane. Now, as you know, the clicking, you can very easily click the buttons with your finger, even without an overlay. It's not a problem. But trying to run these dials without an overlay is quite difficult. So what I did was I created basically a panel that can be popped up, much like the fuel on the Cessna. But with this little icon here, we can click it to expose some operating knobs. So now we have knobs that are larger and easier to manipulate that can replace these knobs on the left and the right. For example, we can click the cursor knob here and change the cursor position. We can hit the enter. We can change different pages. We can also change the frequencies with this knob, and it made it large for touch control, so that it would be easy to use for touch control. And you can see you can swap out the COM and the VOR. So it's a solution that'll work temporarily if you want to use a GPS on the panel. Hopefully we'll have a better solution. And down the road, within a year or so, we hope to have the nav database, and we'll start actually building instruments like this. We're using AirManager. But in the meantime, we're still working towards transparency, and hopefully that'll be coming shortly. So that gives you an idea of what some of the panels are going to look like for 3.0. We'll give you more information as we get it done, but wanted to give you an update. I know it's been a while.